Well, you know, women, if you've been in relationships, you'll know that women can be very aggressive.
Yes.
And this isn't just a generalization, like, it's just own up to it. And, you know, I had to learn that too. I mean, I had relationships where I got bullied like crazy, and I wonder what the hell's going on here. And I eventually just realized, you know, people, whether it's man or woman, we want to know that the people that we're with can be nice and kind and loving and supportive and nurturing, but we also want to know that they can kick ass. They have to. And because that's what makes a full person.
Sure.
I use the zombie apocalypse concept. If you're dating and with a person who's nurturing, kind, peaceful, loving, all this stuff, and then the zombie apocalypse happens, and they've never picked up a shotgun or a shovel or a sword or whatever, I don't know if you're going to really be thinking that you're with the right person at this point.
Right.
Zombie apocalypse concept is a really easy way to look at it. I know that if I was with a person who was kick-ass, was a boxer, was, you know, aggressive, was able to show that, man or woman, you have a different result, right? So survivability in these kind of apocalyptic scenarios that I just fantasize about, to use as an example, the best partners are the ones who are aggressive. And when we all know this, we don't want to be with someone who's always nice, always kind, always nurturing, whatever. We want someone to kick our ass once in a while because that helps us grow.
Sure.
It helps us realize where we're not doing things, where we're doing things too much, or we're not taking action, or living under a fear zone, whatever it is. And you know, like I said, we have such a system which is based on, you know, repressed aggression, but in doing so, it comes out in other ways. It comes out in bullying. It comes out in violence. It comes out in terrorism. It comes out in violent movies. It comes out in violent television. Like, tell me a show on television that isn't about murder. I mean, there are, but, you know. So it comes out in different ways. And then we criticize these ways, or sometimes we addict to these ways, like CSI or something, and call that something to look up to. And it's like, well, we're all looking up to this stuff, but yet, you know, that's strange. I mean, why are we looking up to a television show? I mean, again, I used to work in television. That's bizarre to me. Lived in that industry, I know what it's like. I don't understand it anymore. But I know that of all the kids I've used or I've had coming into therapy, coming for, you know, even the man camp concept, the prototype concept, which was just around Toronto, going out to a boxing match or whatever. When they get that out, I mean, you'll see it. You'll see a change. They'll first be timid. They'll be like, oh, I can't hit another person. I can't do this. I can't do this. I was the same way. But I had to go out and do it. And then I realized, oh, this is kind of cool. This is fun because the other guy likes it, and he's used to it, and now I can get used to it. And it's like, okay, now we can just have fun. And what happens is, even with that, I'll take those kids and put them back into the school, and they won't get touched. And it's not a game of, you know, oh yeah, they won't get touched because they got their arms up and they're going to beat people down, whatever. No, they never do that. All that happens is the energy's different. And so when your energy's different, you stop attracting retardedness like this to come in and get you to own it. So, like, you know, this just goes into the whole man camp concept. When you're able to own your aggression, you don't need to have people be aggressive for you to make you into a perpetual wimp. When you own it, the world changes around you. The world is a reflection of you. This is a philosophical thing, and some people will say, oh yeah, whatever, but, you know, this is truism. It's a reflection of who you are. And if you see an aggressive world and you want to change that world, sorry, I think you got to change your thinking. And some people get pissed at me for that, but, you know, I've seen the results. I've seen the results of people looking to change the world to some peace-loving concept, whatever. And, you know, it's not, if you thought about that, it's not even that fun. I mean, yeah, I'd rather go out and be able to destroy something or you know, set something on fire. Not that I'm an anarchist, whatever, but the ability to express aggression, express masculinity for men and women is necessary, and it's something that we've just taken out of society, and so it has to get in there, because if it's not, we have subordination to authorities going on, we have bullying, we have violence, we have terrorism, it's all energetic dynamics. And when you understand that and you realize, oh, okay, I got to own where I'm aggressive too, and then this stuff on the outside stops happening to remind me of what I'm not doing, then it gets interesting. And you kind of have to do it to understand. I know some people will look at me and say, you're freaking crazy. But if you come and do it, you'll see the difference. You'll realize that, wow, this actually does do something. My life did change. People around me did change because of this. And that's what Man Camp was all about. That's why I did it in the first place. I was asking, how can I help people in the best way own up to their male sides or their aggression sides and get over their fears as well? Because fear is also a lack of aggression. It's a lack of doing. And also, how could I help myself get over all the other stuff? I asked myself, what would I have wanted to go through when I was younger to sort of grow up more and empower myself more? And so I came up with the program. And yeah, it's fun. It's neat. You get to see the results, and you change people's lives. So why not?
That's pretty cool. I mean, something I was just thinking of while you were talking is those traits I get, or those pieces that we want to avoid, the aggression and going for stuff and just doing and being more, I guess, egoic about our lives, more masculine about our lives as men and women. I find that the reason why there are a lot of challenges, which you kind of mentioned in a different way, the reason why there are a lot of challenges that we're faced with as a population on the planet is because we're scared to take action on things. And a lot of those actions require some of those masculine-based traits, which are very much like part of our animalistic side. We have to kind of get to situations where kids are going into schools and killing other kids or terrorism for us to actually take that action and get into our aggression and go and do something about it. And this is something I've written about before, especially with what happened in Connecticut earlier this year or last year, where we had to have a really terrible situation happen to a group of young kids for us to realize that we need to do something to stop this whole thing from happening in the first place, or change it in some form. And I thought to myself, isn't it sad that we have to wait till 27 people or however many people die before we decide to do something about changing the way the world functions? So my goal, and I assume it's part of your mission as well, is to kind of go on not really the prevention strategy, but to kind of take it to the back to the basics and go, let's get the foundations right before we start doing things out in the world, because things will probably change. So that was just something I thought of.
You know, it's interesting. Because I've worked in TV my whole life, I tend to have an investigative reporter in me. And so whenever I have one of these expressions of violence in school systems or anything really, I'm constantly looking at the opposite. Everyone will look at that and say, "Oh, these innocent people or whatever." I don't deny that. I think that these things are ridiculous to happen and they shouldn't happen, whatever. I'm with everyone on that, but I also am not willing to just look at it on one side. And so what I did at that time, I went there and I said, okay, well, there must be some resource that has a collection of all the Twitter feeds of all these students. And there was. And so I got to read all the Twitter updates when that was happening from these kids. And some of them were taking photos with their phone of notes that they were writing and putting them on, or whatever. Well, what's fascinating to me is all the kids who died at that time, every one of them was writing to their parents, "I'm sorry. I was a bad kid. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done this. I'm so sorry I didn't do this," all this stuff. I mean, the amount of guilt that these kids had when they're so young was amazing to me to watch. And I looked at that and I said, oh my God. Like, I look at things like that and I say, if you're living with that sort of guilt at such a young age, I mean, ending of existence is almost a relief in a way. Not to say that that's a thing of why it happened, whatever. But to me, what it means is that, wow, we have a situation in school systems, and I've seen this all the time. I was in public schools, well, I had the same thing, where we have children who are overrun with guilt and shame. And that to me is, if we have kids who are 6 or 7 years old with that system, we're up for a big challenge in the future.
Yeah.
That doesn't change. And, you know, I often don't wonder why some of this stuff happens because of that. I mean, I had a child take her own life just recently in Nova Scotia. And, you know, she had all sorts of experiences and whatever. But, you know, I also look at that and I say, well, has anyone, I mean, the media plays her up to be this and this thing. And I said, okay, I don't deny that, but I also have to go looking at her Twitter feed. And I realized, wow, this is years of Twitter feed where this person is basically schizophrenic. She's, I mean, extraordinarily angry, hateful, I mean, all sorts of stuff. And I look at this and I'm like, this person was challenged. This person was really challenged. And, I mean, if you have a person who's 12 and is drinking Bacardi 151 and smoking marijuana and doing cocaine at 12, like, what is going on here? And then the parent has this tribute page, which is, you know, all the nice photos, and then the actual student or the child's Twitter page, every other photo is her smoking marijuana, every other photo is Bacardi 151 in it, every other photo is, you know, like, cocaine in these photos. I'm like, what is going on here? So I don't buy into the media and what it plays into and says, you know, these people are innocent, whatever. What I see is that people are challenged, and we don't have a system which is able to deal with these challenges. And that's usually because the system that we put in place for behavior and mental empowerment in therapy is based upon the credo of do no harm. And I'm sorry. You cannot help a human being, a mind, a brain. You cannot help that without helping harm. And that's my own philosophy. I have to destroy an old way of thinking to create a new one. If I don't, I'm not getting the result.
Right.
That's why I do what I do. I use that concept, and some people say that's crazy, but they're not my clients. And I've had psychologists call me because I'm stealing their clients, and, you know, bitch me out on the phone for an hour or whatever, but, you know, it's just fun for me. I'll just put it on speaker and go make dinner kind of thing. Because the reality is, look, if I am stealing your clients, I'm probably doing something that you're not.
Right.
I had one client who had 13 years psychotherapy, 35 different psychologists and psychiatrists and specialists to try and help her through her stuff. She sits down in my office, and I asked her one question. I said, great. I said, you're depressed. So what are you depressed about? She cried immediately because she said, that's so fucked up, because no one has ever asked me that question. Of all my years of therapy, no one's ever asked me that question. I said, well, this is bizarre. It blew my mind. And I've talked to her main therapist now, and this person is actually one of my students now, because I'm teaching them what they're not doing. And I created a business out of that too, to help therapists to deal with their clients. But, you know, I was in the office, with that girl, once I found out what she was depressed about, I gave her one question, and I ran her up on that one question for 8 hours. 8 hours with one question. It was basically, what is the downside of holding on to the fantasy of you and this person being together? And 8 hours later, it cracked. It finally cracked. And she was able to realize that she was the one putting herself in depression. She was the one she owned the whole thing. And that created a whole plethora of other craziness to go through. But at least she was past that one thing. And then she went to basically an AA meeting kind of thing after, for an hour, and then came back to my office yelling and screaming because she couldn't believe how crazy that experience was, going back to that therapy. And I said, hey, I told you. Because, I mean, look, we can be the supporting, we can do the submission to God, we can do all this stuff, we can do I need a buddy to be, you know, we can be anti-this, 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 oh, I'm recovering this, recovering this. It's like, yeah, okay, great. But how long do you want to be recovering? Right. So we might as well ask the hardest questions and get the best results, because anything else is just a cop-out. So that's why I do what I do. I'm not a nice therapist. I'm a nice and mean therapist. I'm compassionate and uncompassionate, but I get the results, and it shows. And people keep coming back because they get the results.
Right. Well, once again, Mr. Stephan Gardner, thank you very much for sharing your wisdom, all your experience, and the various strategies and tools that you utilize to help the clients in your business. I'm certain that what you've spoken about can truly have a greater impact on empowering and inspiring not only kids, young kids, but the adults out there that are working with kids, but just generally on themselves as well. For this, I'm truly grateful that I was able to share this with people, and I look forward to, I guess, sharing more of the work that you do with the Be Who You Want to Be community in the future. So thank you very much for taking this time.
Very much.